should we get going?
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. This is Owen.
I'm Paige.
And you are watching the weekly Roundup. It is episode
Boop, 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 weekly
197.
Boop, 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 boop.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I suppose I could take these off.
Sure. If I look crusty, it's because I am.
Crusty?
Yeah. This is makeup from yesterday.
Oh, I see.
I mean, I added to it, but...
I think you look beautiful.
Stop it.
We've got some fun alternative tunes for this week, as we always do. But at the top of the show, we have a couple of things to run through. Paige, do you have some Google Trend analytic data that you would like to discuss at the top of the show?
Yeah. I am a nerd. I also like...
She is.
My main job is selling things like online, like for a company. So like I look at a lot of like trends every week to try and stay on the pulse of things. But so I'm very acquainted with Google Trends and
Twins.
That's
Google
for
Twins.
That's for the kids version of the internet.
Yeah.
It's Google Twins instead.
Incredible. It's just Mr. Beast searches.
And anyway, I also love a good like trash TV watch of all kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Reality TV. I can't get into the nuclear family stuff as much. Like Love at First Sight, I find real grating and just like a bit of propaganda, if I'm dead honest, of that, comp het type shit. Anyway, but this isn't about that at all. This is about the show Outer Banks for the youths, for the children, and it's like the only show I've seen, especially on Netflix specifically, that actually has like real music in it and not
AI bullshit.
And you can tell like whoever's doing the like producing, which I should have looked up. Sorry, guys.
Curation.
Is obviously like gives a shit. You know what I mean? And has kind of banging taste in music. And they played like a needle drop moment in, I think, either the season finale or the second last episode, where it was Fontaine's DC.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really excited, naturally, because whenever alternative-esque music, they're a pretty popular band, but like whenever that kind of music gets...
I mean, we featured them on the show. And
for sure.
This is an alternative music podcast.
I think they're still alt rock by definition.
I mean, they've definitely had a glow up. The last two records have been pretty popular, but I mean, they started...
Plus there was that scene with Barry Keoghan in that one show. Is it a show, TV show, movie?
What scene?
Time to wake up. Anyway... Weird aside. My point being is like after that I was like, okay, well like how much of this actually then translates to like new listeners for that band? Like are people Shazamming this shit? Like because back in the day that was like the main source of music.
Yeah.
Was like what's your favorite TV show and you just or movie even and you just like write down the lyrics of the songs and try and figure out like what the songs are from that essentially. Yes. And there was no Shazam, but there was like essentially the like lyrics.com at the time was the main thing that you would use.
Era.
Yeah. The internet did exist though. So, we're not talking that old. But I decided to go on Google Trends because I wanted to see. And like it was only hundreds of people, which checks out. I feel like that's exactly what I would expect. But yeah, like lots of people like and they were on Genius. It wasn't Shazam. Although, is Shazam connected to Genius?
I mean, maybe. Maybe it's all consolidated at some point.
Because basically you can see where they've come from to that Google search result. Like, what else have they been searching? And it tells you. So people were searching Outer Banks, Genius, and then Fontaine's DC. So, yeah, it was just fun and neat. And I'm sorry that I'm a data nerd, okay? God.
I don't know. We've always talked about this, about how...
We would love to do like an episode of just like shit and good needle drops. Like the tier, like SS tier rating systems that people do. It'd be really fun to do that with like a selection of needle drops from films.
Yeah, because needle drops are like... There's a little bit of an art to it because like you can do ones that are like too on the nose. You can do ones that are completely insane and make no sense. You can do... no needle drops at all and just have AI bullshit fake music that isn't an actual thing. So like there are different elements to pull apart to what
Yeah.
makes a needle drop work.
I think that a great example of a show with solid, timeless needle drops is the first Top Gun film.
Mm.
And also the second, because at least half of that has all the same music.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Lady Gaga.
thanks, Lady Gaga, for that.
Okay, well, I have a recap to go through. So on Saturday, I went to the Nightmare Festival.
How was it?
That our friends Jace from What We Did on the Weekend and Allison, friend of the show from Pulse Scene.
I mean, Jace is also a friend of the show.
Jace is also a friend of the show. Both friends of the show.
We love you, Jace. Owen's a hater.
The fest was really cool. It was just heavy bands, but all different kinds of heavy, hardcore, metalcore, whatever.
And you said like a really diverse group of people.
Yes.
So like age, gender, race, like
lots
it was
of young
just like
kids,
all
lots
over the
of
place.
women, lots of femme, lots of non-binary people.
I love that.
It was very diverse. The vibe was great. Everyone was having a good time.
I feel like that's what we've been building brick by brick recently.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to have like this united goal to be like a really welcoming and diverse community. And like, you know, that's sick. That should be everyone's goal.
It was a really, really good vibe. Really, really good show. Everyone had a great set. Outright did the anniversary set for the Avalanche record, which was dope. Cool for them to kind of hit a 10-year milestone. Gravitate played with friend of the show, Kat and Chris. Lots of friends of the show.
Love you guys.
Lots of friends of the show at the fest. But it was really, really cool. So that's my recap. Show was good.
I wasn't there. I stayed here and cried the whole time and had really bad
You were
FOMO.
dog watching though.
What sucks
being a
about-
responsible parent.
Well, it was that. He's probably old enough now that like we don't need someone to be with him every time we leave the house. But I get really bad burnout from being neurodivergent. And it sucks because I have to make these decisions strategically. Like at the time, I still wanted to go and had the energy to go, but it's about the longevity of that energy. It's about like, well, okay, I still have to record the show. I still have to, you know, be able to get up and go to work on Monday. And there's a physical toll that shows take on my body too, because I have some underlying health issues. And it's so shit because the FOMO is still there. The love of gigs is still there. But I just know that there's only so much my brain can like handle, like I'm going to say a month, you know, like I can't really do like shows every single weekend for a month, which sucks because I care about supporting local artists like so much. And my dumb little body is just starting to get old and fail me, and it's bullshit. And I bet a lot of our listeners know exactly what I'm talking about.
I mean, it is pretty hard to try and like go to shows multiple days in a week.
You just feel like a poser. You're just like, yeah, no, like I love music and bands and supporting them, and I just like can't every single time, and it's shit. But yeah, I feel like that's relatable content.
Hashtag relatable.
At least us old folk are in it together.
Yes, we are. I have one album shout out before we get into the main show. So the feature album for this week is actually a record that came out like a week or so ago. But the other notable record, I guess, from last week, which would be a feature album, was the new record from Poppy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I
Negative
saw.
Spaces.
Was it featured in, was it Enemy or?
I mean, I'm sure it's been featured in all the main music mags. I read a Guardian review and a Kerrang review and stuff.
Have been Kerrang, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The record's cool. It is definitely heavy. Definitely has her exploring the metalcore kind of sounds that she's been flirting with on previous singles.
Yeah.
But there's also like some hyperpop sort of stuff in there. There's like a bunch of weird tracks and sounds. I think it is kind of inconsistent.
Oh.
And I don't mean that as like a wholly negative.
Okay.
I think that like...
Because diversity and it can be good.
Yes. And her whole approach to music has been like adopting different personas, right? Because like the Poppy character is like a construction.
Yeah, I didn't even know if like this metal swing that she's done, I didn't know if it was a bit for like a long time.
Yeah.
Because I was a YouTube viewer.
I will say though that like she's got a lot of like people in the crew. Like she had Jordan Fish from Bring Me the Horizon producing the
Yeah.
record.
I remember that from the singles, right?
Yeah, Steven from The Chariot and House of Protection was like a co-writer on some songs and stuff. So like she's obviously pulled from a fairly like capable team to help construct it. So like I wouldn't say it's like inauthentic in any way.
Okay.
But it just does feel a little bit inconsistent in terms of the approach.
Okay. I feel that way as much as I love this album. I feel that way about Sabrina Carpenter's first album because I think when you're a budding artist, you don't know your specific identifier yet. So I think a lot of the first releases, especially when they have like a team of really talented people, will often like, in my experience, sound a little aimless.
Yeah.
And then usually by the second release, they're like, okay, that's the direction I'm going to go.
But I mean, this isn't Poppy's first record.
No, that's true. But I mean, it's her first one working with so many collaborators, right?
I think so. At least collaborators from like alternative and heavy music.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if this is a direction that she will continue down, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Will it just be like a brief flirtation before she goes back to something else? I don't really know.
I mean, I think the reality is what's fun about the character of Poppy is that like there's no knowing.
No.
And you kind of just got to like strap yourself in for the ride.
Yeah. I think if you're curious at all about Poppy, her music, the whole persona, it's definitely worth listening to.
Yeah.
Like there's some fucking bangers on there. There's some really crazy heavy moments. Like there's stuff on there that definitely slaps. I just think if I'm taking it all in as a cohesive album, I'm kind of not entirely sold on it.
I saw it come up and then just went and listened to Kill Switch Engage instead. It's just that was my energy that day.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, I guess, until I actually like give it a play.
I think there's a new Kill Switch song coming next week.
Yeah.
So we might be featuring that on the show.
I believe I expected that because you can just the hype starts happening, like the reps start pumping shit out and just like getting bots to talk about the music. And there's like this really beautiful like piano reprise cover that the kids on TikTok keep using. And I'm just like, man, My Curse is such a fucking solid track. Like it's just so good. And it's stood the test of time.
It has. Should we get into the main show this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
First up for this week, we have Superheaven.
Oh, shit.
Are back with a new song. So they've announced that they've signed to Blue Grape Music, home to Gel, Spiritual Cramp, Code Orange, bunch of other heavy hitters. And they have released their first song in 9 years. This one is called Long Gone. I just listened to their last record while I was getting notes ready for the show. Ours is Chrome Now. It's cool. They're back with a new single. Long Gone is paired with another new single, which is Numb to What Is Real. So they're doing like a 2-track that will release in full on December 10th. But the new song is cool. It finds them basically doing what they were doing on their last record before they went away, which is like very much that grunge revival with a little bit of alternative rock and shoegaze kind of textures kind of thrown in there.
Yeah.
This one was mixed by Rich Costley, who's worked with the Foo Fighters and Deftones. So definitely some heavy hitters on there.
Some shoegaze bands.
Yes, shoegaze bands. Notable shoegaze band, the Foo Fighters.
We need the, the emo rant that everybody always references. The meme.
We will be talking about that later in the show as part of the feature album.
A prolific statement.
Yes, indeed.
We need that now for shoegaze, I think.
Yeah.
That's what this generation have, is just like this complete...
I'm sure that's already been done. I'm sure I could find that
like,
somewhere.
If melodic, shoegaze.
If guitar pedal, shoegaze.
Any alt rock, apparently.
But I mean, like, we've kind of talked about this off and on the show, but Superheaven have kind of had some TikTok assisted virality with Youngest Daughter getting played
That's
a lot.
so sick.
Which is cool for them. And I was reading a quote from them saying that it's cool that these songs kind of have like a second wind, like a decade after they were like recorded.
Yeah, that is cool.
But I've got a quote here from guitarist, co-vocalist Jake Clark about the new track. He said, "We did the Jar 10-year show, and that was really exciting to see that there was still interest in the band. Then that fall, we played a few shows, and they were even crazier. It really made us realize that people love this band and the songs that we'd made." So I think this reignition of the band and love for those songs pushed them to be like, all right, let's write some new shit.
We can do this.
We can do this. But also...
we seem to appeal to the kids.
Yeah. But I mean, like, they've still been fairly active just in other projects. Like, we featured Webbed Wing on the show.
I do remember
and
that.
that's Taylor Madison from Superheaven.
Yeah.
That's his other band. And Jake drums in that band. And then, do you remember earlier in the year we featured Clever Hour?
I just remember with featured artists from Superheaven.
Jake has another band called Clever Hour.
Yes,
they put out a demo. We featured that on the show. So, like, they've been doing shit.
Yeah.
They just haven't been doing Superheaven. And now they're doing Superheaven.
I mean, how shocking that must be. Like, I wonder if in their minds they had put Superheaven to bed a little bit.
I think they had, yeah.
That's so fascinating. The world had other ideas.
Let's jump in and listen to the song because I think it's dope.
Okay,
so this is Superheaven, Long Gone.
Let's check it out. Yeah, cool.
It's pretty much exactly what I expected.
Exactly what I expected. Yeah. And that's
one big, like, fucking solid riff, and then lots of just like cool plotting textures like built around it, dreamy vocals, the whole
definitely.
The whole 9 yards.
The kind of like wine sort of long drawn out. The drawl, yeah. It's what you come to love and expect of this band.
Yeah. I was just thinking too, like, I've been listening to this band for so long, for like 15 years.
Ew.
Back when they were like Daylight, before they were called Superheaven.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just crazy to kind of think of the progression.
We've said this before. I was never a big Superheaven girl. I was like Dillinger, Escape Plan, like I listened to a little bit of Deftones, but like mostly dudes like you listen to Deftones, and that was lame. Like, you know,
what the fuck? How dare you?
You know the Deftones guys. You know the Deftones guys.
Yeah, I think it's dope, and I think it's sick for them to kind of come back and do new tracks. Obviously, they're having the viral moment, which is sick for them. So
yeah, for sure. I think any band that can get that sort of virality. I'm starting to think it's becoming less and less possible to do organically. Like, it's like anything though. As soon as you make an app or like an algorithm pay to play, it just like, it ruins it because people don't, as soon as you put sponsored on anything, people are like a little less inclined. I don't know why that is, but that's definitely a thing. And then, yeah, you can't get that organic virality anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think their little blow up is definitely organic.
It's super organic.
Because, like,
thanks, Sonic, Emo Sonic.
I remember when Jar came out, and like it was a big record, but it never like
popped off.
It never blew them up to be bigger than like Title Fight or Balance and Composure, like contemporary bands at the time.
At the time, it wasn't the sound people wanted.
Well, it kind of was, but I guess just like there wasn't anything overly distinct about what they were doing on Jar to kind of like set them apart from other people that were mining the same kind of influences.
Okay. Yeah.
But in saying that, like Youngest Daughter wasn't even a single, I don't think, and wasn't necessarily like a standout track. So
and it's like the big...
It must have been a fan and someone who knew that record and really liked that
Emo
song
Sonic.
and really liked that riff and kind of just like put it in, and it just like got shot up into the fucking algorithm somehow.
One day historians will be tracing it back to find out where the source really was.
Archivists,
yeah.
Yes. Moving on, I have a new track from UK noise rockers Pigs, 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 Pigs.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
How many pigs?
7 pigs.
Yeah.
I always have to count to make sure.
Yeah. Babe could never.
They're back with a new Skull Crusher. This one is called Detroit, and it is the first original cut since their 2023 LP Land of the Sleeper.
Are pigs from Detroit?
They are not, but Detroit is famously home to like the noise rock kind of sound. So
sure.
it's like throwing it back to the
Talking
roots.
about the OG community,
Yes.
for sure.
I've got a quote here from vocalist Matt Batty, who says, Detroit is a massive slab of striking noise rock about a hideous man with even worse behaviors. Detroit reflects on the worst manifestations of male jealousy and resentment and the ways in which the deliberate avoidance of accountability can lead to deflecting responsibility in exchange for blaming external forces like fate or God for perceived injustice.
There is nothing more annoying than a narcissist weaponizing a belief system to excuse their behavior.
Which is what most narcissists do.
That is absolutely what most narcissists do. Yeah. God
Yes.
told me to do it.
Let's have a listen to this one. It fucking rocks. This is Pigs, 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 Detroit.
All right, let's do it.
Thoughts?
I think that the vocals sounded like we were in a stadium and that was coming out of like a line array PA. Like it just felt real huge. And then you've got like that sick kind of drone guitar, like, bass and guitar just like pushing you through. Like
I'm glad you kind of focused on the droning quality. I read a book last year called Monolithic Undertow.
You did.
Which was all about the drone and how it has been this thing that humans have kind of played with and exploited since like antiquity, and then through like the development of amplifiers and rock music, it's kind of taken on its whole different quality and been pushed and turned into different things. But like noise rock specifically kind of has this ritualistic aspect to it where it really does kind of like emphasize these ancient kind of ideas of the drone, of these like monotonous repeated refrains that really try and lock your experience, your consciousness into like this rhythmic kind of droning pattern.
A sensory sort of hypnotic stimulation.
Yeah. And I think if you listen to that track, like relatively simple drum pattern, fairly relatively easy vocal kind of delivery. There's big stretches of that song where there's like no vocals at all, and it is really just relying on that riff.
Yeah,
which is just like repeated in the bass, repeated in the guitar with a little bit of like screeching feedback kind of overlaid over the top of it.
I always think about how like, in New Age spirituality, you have like the bowls.
Oh yeah.
And stuff like that. Like
with like the sticks to make like the chimes and stuff. Yeah.
It's like spiritual healing stuff.
I'm sure there's a technical term for that, but I don't know it.
I'm pretty sure it's just bowls.
Okay. Fair enough.
But it's funny because I think about like how many like normies have ever said to me like, I just don't know how you get into that music. It just sounds like noise to me. And like, no judgment on them, to each their own, but like that's the point of it.
Sometimes the noise is the point. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes that's very much the reason that I like it. It's hypnotic in a sense.
Yeah.
Cathartic always.
And there are a number of genres like that exploit that phenomenon, right?
For sure.
Of like the drone, that monotonous, rhythmic, repetitive quality is kind of the entire point. And they will build entire songs about it.
Music is for me like Alice in Wonderland, where she'll like eat this gets bigger, eat this gets smaller. Like it's just like, depending on what I am feeling at the time, there is an endless selection of music that I, in my opinion, meditate with in a way. Like it's like, we've talked about before, like I'll make up film clips in my head. Like it's a catharsis, and there's an endless selection of the specific catharsis that works for you. And that's kind of the miracle of music.
Yes, I completely agree.
Music is my special interest. if this podcast hadn't made that clear yet.
She's not like other girls, folks.
I'm different. I've got the tism.
So this is a new one, thanks to the YouTube algorithm. Just threw me a band that I wasn't familiar with, and I listened to their new single, and I was like, this is cool. Gonna put it on the show. So the band is from LA. They're called Kills Birds. Have you heard these guys before?
No, I don't like that.
I don't like killing
I
birds.
stand in solidarity with my fellow burbs.
Their newest single is called Behind, and it's out now through Lucky Number Records. It's the band's first new material since their 2021 LP, Married, which I was also not familiar with.
Oh, I'm sorry that you released it in 2021.
Yeah,
That's probably why.
Sucked into the pandemic hole there. On the new single, the band has a statement, and it is, quote, always late, even when you're early, out of time, but the clock hasn't started, an invite to the party, but the party blows.
Deep irony of a song about time blindness following a joke about autism.
Whoops. But they're a four-piece. They're fronted by a Bosnian-Canadian filmmaker called Nina Letli, and features guitarist Jacob Loeb, bassist Fielder Thomas, and new drummer Griffin Kisner. So this is cool. Let's check it out because I want to know what you think about it. This is Kills Birds Behind.
Okay. Don't kill them.
Don't do it.
Ooh, very like 90s grunge, like chicks grunge, like I could see it on like a teen coming of age story from 90s.
Yeah, but it also has like a little bit of like a post-hardcore kind of like edge to it.
For sure.
I certainly didn't expect it to get as heavy as it did. And like I said, I'm not familiar with the band. So like when it came up, it was literally just a thumbnail on YouTube.
You raw dogged it.
And I was like, I have no idea what this band would sound like. So I kind of just went on the journey. But we've talked about this before, but like I'm a real big fan of hearing like a vocalist's like breath on a track.
Love a good breath.
And especially when there's like moments of like tension and release on a song.
The good old
the inhale, like
where you've got the rasp in the back of your throat.
And you can feel that they're getting ready to fucking let it all out.
Yeah.
Love that shit.
Me too.
Big
Satisfying.
Fan. But yeah, this is dope. I love it.
This is really cool. This is kind of one of them tracks that I would like just hit repeat on just because sonically there's a lot going on and I feel like I just want to kind of hear it over and over again.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and listen to the last record because I mean,
it feels like we've been sleeping on this.
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of been missing the boat.
Which is what you want to do with your singles, to be fair. So good job.
I have another one that you will enjoy. We have a new track from Nam/Melbourne Punk's R.U.B.
I peeked at the playlist, so I knew that this was happening.
Friends of the show, we've featured them a bunch.
Love you so.
Over the last like 12, 18
months. We're definitely
months.
Stands,
yes.
Yeah. Well in.
But this is, I think, their only track for this year.
Okay.
I think their last single came out last year, I believe, with a previous EP. This one is called Good Bloke. It's taken from an upcoming split 7-inch with Aora.
That name has already given so much promise. You know what I mean? I can already feel this is going to be sick.
An upcoming split with Aora/Sydney outfit Backhand. And the track finds R.U.B, quote, laying waste to the toxic culture that we see in so-called Australia around men's violence. So stoked to have the band back. They took a little brief hiatus there.
Well, they've been touring and like.
Well, they've been playing a lot of shows, but then I know that Liv stepped away from the band to focus on tattooing. So then they got in.
What a crazy to be in a budding band that's going really well, and then also it's just two very intensive things to do at the same time.
So I know that they replaced Liv with Dasha as the new guitarist and vocalist. So they've got a slightly retooled lineup, but Soph on vocals and guitar, Dasher on vocals and guitar, Perry on bass, and Mark on drums. So with that quartet kind of locked in again, they're firing things back up and getting ready to do more shit. But this one's a quick one, so let's jump in and have a listen. We'll chat about it on the back end.
Okay.
This is R.U.B, Good Bloke.
Let's check it out.
He's a good bloke. How many times must a man tell me everyone's too woke? How many times must a man tell me that I should take a joke? Take a shit in a world where nothing's free. You shouldn't need to be convincing me. How many times must a man tell me that he's a good bloke? How many times must I read that he was a footy star? How many times must I read that he was a loving father?
She just gets me.
Yeah. Quintessential R.U.B right there.
For sure. It reminds me of a conversation I was having the other day. Might have been with you actually, and not to call out Crafter. Sorry, Crafter, but I'm calling this is at you for a minute. But someone was talking about how his cancellation in the early 2000s kind of pales in comparison to some of the cancellations we've seen since.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned that he sees that a lot of the stuff he was saying back then now in a different light because he's got a daughter.
Yes.
And that's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that he's grown and changed. That's the only way that we get better.
Mm.
But it's why does it take that to feel empathy for women? And I mean that genuinely. I mean that as what do we need to do to have men feel empathy for women without needing a specific perspective, without needing someone to be what if someone talked to your mother like that? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that is ultimately at the core of something like an argument for gender equality, right?
Yeah.
Is not only is there a disparity in the way that men are treated versus how women are treated, but it's the only way to get any kind of equality is to acknowledge that it has to come from a place of human empathy where gender doesn't factor into your empathetic equation.
Totally.
So in all the situations that Soph is describing in the song of men committing horrible things and being told oh, but he's a good bloke. Oh, but he was a loving dad. Oh, but he was a footy star. It's none of that fucking matters when he showed a basic lack of empathy for another human being.
I still have people in my life that are social media friends with the person that assaulted me. And they say shit to me well, he's got daughters now. And I'm just yeah, honestly, I don't really feel anything about him. I feel a way about you. Good for him. Was a long ass time ago. But it's weird that you, as one of the few people that I've confided this information in, feel the need to be in that person's life and then say that to me. Wild bullshit. People are crazy.
Yeah.
Moving on from that fun note.
It's fun. It's quick. And it pretty much gives me everything that I want from R.U.B.
Yeah.
Which is no bullshit.
It's a bit of an evolution as well of their sound.
I mean, it sounds clean. It sounds fucking...
I've always really loved how raw their music is.
Yes.
But I feel we haven't lost any of that either. But there is a sense of a bit of a more isolated sound on her vocal track that I don't think we've heard previously. I do like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I still feel we're in the room with them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's my favorite thing about R.U.B. It's you're just sitting in the room at a jam sesh with them in the best way possible, because they're a good band. But yeah, I think sound-wise, it sounds a little bit different, but still the same. We're keeping the core elements that make it what it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's fast, it's fun. You can definitely see the live energy in your head.
Yeah.
I can see Soph standing there just fucking getting real pissed off singing it. I can see all of that in my head.
Yeah, I can feel the sweat of other people in the crowd on my body.
The
Ugh.
beer spilled on like a fucking bowls club carpet. I
Yeah.
can see it all.
That guy with the really bad BO that it feels the need to like be in the mosh pit
Yeah.
surrounded by people.
Very, very visual track.
Oh yeah, it's good. Really.
I have
Submersive.
one more for you for side A this week. This one I'm excited to play. So they're a band that I've not featured on the podcast before, which is funny because they have one of my favorite EPs of this year that I just somehow didn't feature on the show. This music podcast that I do. So weird.
Just never came up.
It just never came up. But it's a Minnesota outfit called Falling with Scissors.
Minnesota.
All one word.
Nailed that.
Yeah, you crushed that.
Falling with scissors.
Yes.
Are they the kitty ones though? So no one gets hurt.
I don't know. But that's why you have to hold them so you don't
Blade in.
blade in.
But isn't that like that's for everyone else's safety, right?
Right. And if you fall,
You just fuck up yourself.
exactly.
Screw you guys. I'm holding them blade out.
So they put out an EP in January titled The Death and Birth of an Angel. I really love that EP. It's one of my favorites of this year. They are kind of taking like this frantic metalcore sound and then just like blowing it apart with like bursts of crazy cybergrind
What?
and just
okay.
like chopping.
I don't know
and
what cybergrind is, but it sounds sick.
It's basically like taking things, making it more intense, but giving it a very like digital kind of component. So like everything feels like chopped and distorted and cut up. Little electronic like bleeps and bloops and stuff in there.
I love bleeps and bloops.
Love a good bleep bloop. This new track is called Open Your Eyes, very much in the same vein, proving that they're on a big creative streak at the moment. It does remind me a lot of a band that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which is Candy.
Yeah, okay.
And they had that EP Flipping. It's not the one.
No, but I didn't do that at the time, and I wanted to.
Okay.
The
Well,
whole-
I'm
you
glad-
guys don't even know how many vocal stems I ignore in an episode. I push through a lot.
But yeah, what Falling with Scissors are doing reminds me a lot of what Candy is doing because that band put out an EP, the Flipping EP, which I mentioned, but they also put out an album earlier this year. So like both prolific bands, both doing crazy shit with like hardcore, metallic hardcore, metalcore, cybergrind, weird, just crazy intense shit.
You are making this entire table shake
I know.
with your
That's how
excitement.
excited I am. Let's have a listen to the song. This is Falling with Scissors. Open Your Eyes.
Okay. Who knew someone screaming over a Transformers fight scene would sound so good?
There's a lot going on there.
Also, it only just occurred to me that there may be adults alive today that wouldn't be able to identify the sound of a CD-ROM booting.
I mean, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Wow. This is how people must have felt about vinyl and cassette tapes. And you're just like, ugh, whatever, old man. No one fucking cares.
Yeah.
Now, I care, I guess. I don't know. I don't really care that much. It is interesting, though.
It is.
Technology.
There's so much going on with this band
Yeah.
and this song in particular. Just the sheer kind of audacity of that song
Yeah.
to just kind of like skip and skitter around into so many different things. I keep thinking about like, how the fuck do you play this live? And like, obviously you can
Pedals, I guess.
obviously you can have samples and backing tracks and
Yeah.
stuff, but like there's such a raw energy to the way that everything is just kind of like slamming into each other from like section to section that I
Yeah.
just have like no idea how you would possibly play that. And I would love to find out. I would love
Yeah,
to
that's-
I would love to watch it.
And then, like, how do you dance to it? Like, do you just mosh? Do you
I have no fucking idea.
like? That's sick.
yeah.
I like that. That's up for question.
I like that that's an unknown
Yeah.
element. That's intriguing
Feels
to
like
me.
it's hard to like do shit that would make you ask that kind of question,
Correct.
right? And
Yes.
this definitely did that. It certainly isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea.
No.
I really like it. I think that kind of music, that's what makes that kind of music good.
Absolutely.
It's like, I could see people hating this.
Yes.
But when you can evoke even the kind of passion that is required to hate a song as well, that's still something. And I don't know. I just like music that makes people feel shit, good or bad.
We've
And
talked about this before, but like the greatest crime that music can do is make you indifferent to it.
yes.
So like,
yeah.
if you listen to something and feel absolutely nothing,
Yeah.
not any kind of emotional response, then it has failed as art
sure.
in my
And that's my
opinion.
defense for Woman's World by Katy Perry. Also, I just feel like the backlash to that was just like straight up misogynism and really on the nose misogynism. Like, imagine viscerally hating a song called Woman's World. It's like, okay,
Sit
you hate
down.
women.
Sit down. You hate women.
It is a mid song, but like you hate it too much, man. Like, that's all I'm saying.
That brings us to the end of side A for this week. We should jump on over to side B, keep the show rolling. If you would like to watch the rest of the show, head on over to patreon.com/tpdpod. You get the other half of the show.
Pod, unfiltered.
You get side B, 5 more tracks, feature album as well.
That's an awfully hot coffee pot.
Fuck off. All right, we'll catch you later. Bye.
See ya.
Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/tpdpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/tpdpod. Thanks for watching the show.